In this clip, U.S. Representative Anna Paulina Luna brings up the CIA claiming to have found the Ark of the Covenant. Check it out.
Do you know anything about the Ethiopian church that supposedly has the Ark of the Covenant in it?
Yeah, I've looked into that. I actually wanted to, and again,
Yeah, you're in the government. You can get something
done.
done.
I actually wanted to do a Codel to just, but of course, we're focusing on other things right now, right?
Send in seals. Find that fucking
I was
thing.
like, I need to pay for this for myself, so we're not using taxpayer dollars.
A nice politically correct statement if I ever heard one.
But just go check it out. What's interesting is the CIA allegedly located the Ark of the Covenant. I think the
remote viewed.
They remote viewed it. You can actually find that. You should actually pull
Ethiopia?
it up. No, not in Ethiopia, but it was in a Middle Eastern country. They weren't able to locate the actual. I think the New York Post did an article on it where they actually have the handwritten notes on the Ark of the Covenant location.
So in '88 they found the Ark of the Covenant.
Allegedly they remote viewed it. We don't know if they followed up.
Who was
on
president back then? Reagan?
Go down.
Bush?
Senior. Okay, so scroll down, and then you'll see that. So this is so they're going through in the notes. You have to read it, but you can scroll down. This is kind of.
So this is he's drawing where it is.
The remote viewer. So you have the different things that are describing it, and if you keep going, you'll see a cherubim. Keep going.
It's showing the peak of a building.
Wait, sorry, go up a little bit. So that's interesting because if you look into so there's a wheel text. If you look into Enoch's description of angels and Ezekiel too, I think that's kind of a tie.
This is what Anna is referring to with Ezekiel. The wheel symbolizes divine presence, mobility, and God's omniscience, guiding his judgment and will. For Enoch, it symbolizes divine order, celestial cycles, and God's judgment.
But go down more. So, but yeah, you have the actual... Here, purpose of container. They should have a cherubim drawing somewhere down here. Oh yeah, see. So that would be the seraphim. So it's interesting.
That would be the what?
The seraphim.
How it's opened.
Yeah. So basically, when they describe the ark, and so he's going through describing. So these are the hand notes for it, and then it actually says that it's in a Middle Eastern country. The remote viewer describes the clothing in which individuals are in the area. I feel like I'm describing an Indiana Jones movie, but this is actually from the CIA.
This image, scroll back to what is that thing? Is that the corner of the box?
Seraphim are a type of celestial being, specifically angels, described in religious texts as having 6 wings and serving as guardians of God's throne. There are 2 of them mounted on top of the Ark of the Covenant.
So we know that in the Pyramid Code document, it already spoke exactly about what was underneath the pyramids. Well, it spoke about the Ark of the Covenant as well, with its exact location, where you can find it, and what it entails. So what the CIA actually declassified in those documents, once again, is not new information. It's just a big organization and agency coming out saying, hey, look, this is what we did. And by the way, we did it 40 years ago in 1988. So this project is called Project Sunstreak, like streaking the sun. And it's using something called psychoenergetics. So you called something called remote viewing. December 5th, 1988, it was a session by, they don't give us the name, but it's called Remote Viewer number 32, which means they used over 30 people in this experiment to do it. This specific session lasted 90 minutes from 9:15 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. on December 5th, 1988. And it says the following. Target is a container. The target is what they're looking for on the longitude and latitude lines. This container has another container inside of it. The target is fashioned of wood, gold, and silver. The target is similar in shape to a coffin and is decorated with seraphim, which are these gold-looking statues. This target is located somewhere in the Middle East, as the language spoken by individuals present seemed to be Arabic. Visuals of surrounding buildings indicated the presence of mosque domes. And I'm going to tell you right now that I know people are talking about, is it in Ethiopia? Because there's a lot of, Arabic-speaking people over there. No, it's under the Dome of the Rock. And I'll tell you how we know that in a second. But it continues on by saying the target is hidden, underground, dark and wet were all aspects of the location of the target. The purpose of the target is to bring a people together, meaning a religious object. It has something to do with ceremony, memory, homage, the resurrection. There is an aspect of spirituality, information, lessons, and historical knowledge far beyond what we know. And then it goes on by explaining something which I can elaborate on further of what this means. The target is protected by entities and energies and can only be opened by those who are authorized to do so. This container will not/cannot be opened until the time is deemed correct. Once it is time to open the container, the mechanics of the lock system will be found to be fairly simple. Individuals opening the container by prying or striking are destroyed, meaning they die, by the container's protectors, meaning its energies, through the use of a power unknown to us. Now, it sounds weird, but that's coming from the CIA. Let's not forget that. You're talking about something that is a very highly spiritual object and artifact. I call it a form of technology. And when you deal in that world, think about it scientifically as frequencies. There are certain frequencies that some people can touch and some people cannot, because if you don't have the proper vehicle to do it, it will literally electrocute you and kill you. For example, there are some people like monks who can walk on fire and not get burned, but me and you may walk on fire and we're going to get burned. That's what we're talking about with certain energies embedded into this thing. Remember, we're talking 4,000 years ago. This is around the same time of the pyramids as well. We're talking about a civilization, a society, a people that did things in a way that we do not understand today because it's forgotten knowledge. But what's interesting over here, when it comes to understanding its location as well, which is important, is yeah, there are some people saying, it might be in Ethiopia. We don't really know. Well, the CIA documents are talking about it underneath some sort of dome, some big mosque in the Middle East. And then here's where the diversion, the distraction comes in. They say it might be here, it might be there, we don't really know. So I'm going to read something from a Daily Mail article that came out just the other day about this topic. And then I want to show you what the Pyramid Code has to say about this, because once again, just like it was on the money with what was underneath the pyramids, it did it once again in a few days. So it's speaking about, according to legend, Queen of Sheba and Israel's King Solomon, so this is history, gave birth to Menelik in her country of origin, but he later traveled to Jerusalem to study with his father. While there, he supposedly stole the ark and brought it back to Axum in Ethiopia. Locals say it has resided in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion ever since. But then the British scholar of Semitic languages and Ethiopian studies, Edward Ullendorf, claimed that he saw the ark inside the church during World War II. But a source close to Ullendorf later revealed that the artifact he saw was nothing more than a replica. What he saw was what you find in any Ethiopian church. It's a model of the Ark of the Covenant because they have replicas all over the place. They have decoys all over the place because you're talking about something of extremely high, not just historical significance, but spiritual significance as well. So in the Pyramid Code, a few days ago, we spoke about what was underneath the pyramids, and we cited certain things from that document that came out 5 years ago. Listen to what it says over here. King Solomon, King David's son, manifested the idea of the first holy temple, but it came at a heavy price to the people of the nation. The first holy temple was composed of 3 main parts: the main hall, the second part of the temple was the main temple, which contained certain objects, and the third part of the temple was known as the Holy of Holies, in which the Ark of the Covenant was. However, over time, and now I'm going to the bottom, it specifically says the place itself, which is known as the foundation stone, in the Dome of the Rock. So the Dome of the Rock, if you read over there, the Holy of Holies, also known as the Dvir in Hebrew, sat on what we know today as the foundation stone. In Hebrew, it's called Even Hashtiyah, within the Dome of the Rock as we know it today. The foundation was used as a stand for the Dvir. The foundation stone had and still has very strong powers, and its geographical location is the energy center of our planet, as well as the energy center of everything as a whole. But here's where it gets interesting. If you go down, it says, in a straight line, deep underground, exactly what the remote viewers said, are the contents of the Holy of Holies, which are concealed there until this very day. The room in which these items are hidden, like the rest of the temple, was designed by King Solomon. And further conversations, if you want to call them, about the Pyramid Code, which is the series on Unified TV, further explain exactly where it is, roughly 180 feet below the base of the foundation stone, which is what the Dome of the Rock is actually built around on right now. It's called the Dome of the Rock because it's a massive dome over the foundation stone. Like the center of war in the world is there in the Middle East.
Yes.
aspect of everything around Israel. Everybody's fighting over it. And the three main monotheistic religions, which is Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, all look at that place as this is our place. We got to ask ourselves, why did they go? If you go according to history, before it became a mosque, it was the Holy Temple. Why did they choose to build it there around the foundation stone specifically? What did they know that we don't know today? And the answer is a whole lot. And over time, we'll figure that out. And that's what they're really fighting over. This isn't about Jews versus Muslims. It's not a religious war within people. That's how we're used to fight each other in this game of divide and conquer. But what's really going on is, in my opinion, there are powers that be that we do understand control the world when it comes to energy sectors, oil, gas, water, and so on and so forth. Those same people want to make sure, just like a lot of other things are not found out by the masses, that this is not found out either. And that's why I think they're moving people towards saying, well, it's in Ethiopia, look over there, don't look over here. But everything shows us that over here was this big orb of light that today they call UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. They used to call them UFOs. Nobody knows what it was, but this video was very, very highly spoken about in January of 2011 when it happened, right over the top of the Dome of the Rock, hovering there for a while, staying there, and then boom, it just shoots up at a speed that we cannot comprehend in modern day physics. So my question is, why over there? What's so special about the Dome of the Rock? And if we look at history, we understand the power of the foundation stone. We understand the power of that geographical location, and everything shows us that it's there. Why are they telling us it's somewhere else? To divert our attention. That's my opinion.
Someone in our chat room says people forget, News and Prep says people forget there were two arcs according to the book of Joshua.
Was the thing in Ethiopia that opened you up the possibility of them holding the Ark of the Covenant?
Yes, that's right. I think I've always had a nose for a good story, whether it's current affairs or ancient history. And while in Ethiopia on current affairs business, I kept coming across their tradition that they were the true last resting place of the lost Ark of the Covenant.
You have to admit, though, that's a pretty trippy autobiographical through line, because the Ark of the Covenant is supposed to kind of carry all knowledge, all timelines, and your initial impetus for getting into all of this ancient civilizational stuff was looking into the Ark of the Covenant.
I ate it, I slept it, I breathed it, I dreamed it. All the time, it was with me.
And look at how far you've come since then, as far as piecing together all these similarities across, disparate sites all over the world.
Yes, yeah.
It's very interesting.
Initially, it was just an intriguing story, and it wasn't my main focus in the 1980s, but it was something I gradually built up information on till I got to a point where I knew I had a book to
What's
write.
the town that the Ark of the Covenant is?
Axum.
Axum.
AXUM, and it's in the province of Tigray in northern Ethiopia. And there's we need not go into it in detail, but there's a whole long tradition in Ethiopia. Actually, Ethiopia is the only country in the world that claims to have the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
There are lots of rumors, traditions, suggestions that it might be in Jordan, that it might be hidden beneath the Temple Mount, in Jerusalem, in all kinds of places. But there's one country in the world where it's a living tradition and where it's central, oddly, to Christianity in Ethiopia, because it's a pre-Christian relic, but it's central to Ethiopian Christianity. And they have their own story about how the Ark of the Covenant got there. But actually it was, as I began to research this subject and encountered the very interesting community of indigenous Ethiopian Jews who are known as the Falashas. They call themselves the Beta Israel, the House of Israel.
Lost tribe.
They have a very ancient presence in Ethiopia. And they have their own story about how the Ark of the Covenant got to Ethiopia. And it's quite different from the Ethiopian national epic, which is called the Kebra Nagast, the Glory of Kings. Their story is much, much more interesting and is clearly factually based for all kinds of reasons, like how their ancestors had fled from Israel carrying the Ark, like how they brought it to an island in the Nile River and kept it there for several hundred years, like how they were forced out and fled south following the Blue Nile to its source in Lake Tana, which is where the Falasha communities still live today. Now, actually, when I say still live today, during the chaos of the overthrow of the Mengistu regime in Ethiopia in 1991, Israel flew in many large cargo planes and actually airlifted out of Ethiopia the majority of the Ethiopian Jews and resettled them in Israel. Quite a number have returned, but there's still a large Ethiopian Jewish community in Israel itself now. And they just have fascinating stories about this, and stories that make sense, and stories that I was able to tie up with historical evidence. So, I gradually began to feel that this claim that Ethiopia makes may have a real basis to it. And obviously that involved me figuring out what this thing is. It's the first time that I began to get a sense of something missing in the human story. Because the Ark of the Covenant does sound, there's a very detailed description of it in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, in the Old Testament. And that description is like a blueprint for a device, which supposedly God gives to Moses on Mount Sinai.
And it directs the Israelites where to go when they're in the desert?
Yes, as they carry it through the desert, it's carried in procession before them. It becomes central to the way. And of course it contains the tablets of the Ten Commandments, according to the book of Exodus. But also it strikes people dead with bolts of fire that come out of it. It can cause whole populations to suffer from cancerous tumors, as it did when the Philistines, as they're called in the Bible, briefly captured it. They all died, so bad that they had to return it to the Israelites.
Which is fascinating, because you say that the guards that are guarding it in Axum currently seem to have radiation damage in certain cases. They have cataracts.
They all have cataracts over their eyes, and by and large, once they are appointed guardian of the Ark, they have a lifespan of about 3 years. And they all say, because I've interviewed a number of them in succession, when the previous one has died, I've gone back, found a new guy there. And he said, yeah, my predecessor died, and the Ark did it. And he shows me the cataracts over his eyes, and he says, the Ark is doing this to me. And I said, why? And I will remember this phrase forever. He said, because it is a thing of fire.
Oh, and you said you almost went in there, but you were very afraid.
Well, no, I was not allowed to go.
You weren't allowed to
I was allowed through the gates in front of the sanctuary chapel, in which the Ethiopians claim it's kept, but I wasn't allowed into the
I think
building.
I asked you, why didn't you sneak in, Graham? And you said,
yeah.
You said something very interesting to me, though. You said something inside of me said I wasn't ready and it would be dangerous.
I felt it would be obnoxious to try and sneak in. It would be wrong. I have to respect the sanctity of this place. And besides, the people of Axum are well prepared to defend it. Were anybody to try to break into that chapel, they would be shot. It's as simple as that.
If it's just been an Axum all along, you had, Heinrich Himmler under Hitler looking for these, the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant. Did he ever try to go to Axum and take it from them?
During the Italian occupation of Ethiopia, which was roughly 1935 to 1941, the Ethiopians say that they took the Ark out of Axum and they took it to another place of safekeeping. That's their story. They took it to an island on Lake Zwei, which is south of Addis Ababa. I wouldn't be surprised if there were efforts to find it, but the Ethiopians have been very competent at frustrating those efforts for a very long time.